large cities in the nation, police departments have equipped officers with body cameras, hoping they would have a civilizing effect on both the police and the communities they are here to serve and protect. For many advocates, though, the police killing of an unarmed African-American, Michael Brown in Ferguson, was the last straw. They began calling for body cameras for police, hoping the equipment would make cops more accountable for their interactions. Police also hoped body cameras would make civilians feel safer. But an 18-month study conducted by the lab at D.C., a team of scientists embedded in the local government, found that cameras have little effect on behavior. Police equipped with cameras used forced and prompted civilian complaints at the same rate as officers who did not have body cameras. Joining us now from D.C. is the district's Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice, Kevin Donahue. So, Kevin, these results, so what are we saying? They're a waste?
We're not saying they're a waste. So what D.C. did is we rolled out body cameras to every patrol officer and every sergeant about 2 years ago. Instead of rolling them all out to every officer, we actually rolled them out to half of the officers. We randomly assigned the cameras, and then we observed, just like an FDA would do for a new medicine, we observed what's the effect of those who have cameras to those who don't. So the question of is it a waste depends on what your expectations are. What we found over the past 2 years is that when it comes to increasing transparency and clarity as to what happens in controversial or fatal interactions between police and communities, they've been really helpful because we've had the ability to be able to push out video that doesn't always bring closure, but it brings some visual evidence as to what happened. Now, if someone expects or a city expects that body cameras will be in some way a replacement for good training, good recruiting, a culture of respect, well, a camera's not going to do that. But when we started this, there was an open question, I think, for a lot of cities. And there were some studies that said if you have a camera on a police officer, it might change their behavior. We found over 18 months that was not the case.
And so when you see this, there are people who say, see, there you go. Look, don't even bother trying to roll this out because it doesn't have an impact. So how do you respond to those folks who might try to use this study as justification not to move forward with body cameras?
I think they have to go back to why cities around the country wanted to have body cameras. It did come out of Ferguson. It did come out of fatal shootings of police officers to often young men in cities where there was no evidence as to what happened. Now, having a visual camera doesn't bring closure and doesn't bring a person back, but it can give a sense of clarity. It can help with the evidentiary process of investigating the shooting. And I think if we go back to what prompted us to get body cameras, in D.C. it has been helpful to have body cameras because we actually not only have cameras, we have one of the most transparent policies in the country. So our mayor can release body camera footage even if it's part of a criminal investigation. A subject of a video, this is very rare, can actually get a free copy of their body camera. Any member of the public or the media can get a copy of body cameras if it happens in public space. So the original intent was transparency. We have found for training, for transparency, they're helpful. I think what the study will do is it will help to recalibrate expectations that as a city you still have to focus on training, recruitment, qualifications, and culture. Getting a camera won't solve for all that. And we didn't expect it to in D.C., but we wanted to research it and live with the data as it came out.
All right, then we got some questions there, so let's start with Tiffany Lofton.
Thank you. Kevin, thank you for this report and thank you for being on the panel today. My question lies in for folks who, because I was one of those folks on Twitter yesterday who said, see, this is what folks have been saying and this is what folks have been referencing for a while now. It's not that we don't need body cameras, it's that in the name of justice and communities and families wanting justice, body cameras still, even when the videos were released to the jury or to the public, didn't make a difference. So how do we make that shift and what is, I guess, the next step after body cameras? I heard you say trainings and qualifications and culture. But what do you think, in your opinion, from the study, should the community activists be saying now in terms of next steps when finding justice for people who have been murdered by police?
Well, I think the wrong answer would be to say no body cameras. I think the right answer is to say let's not stop with body cameras. They are helpful. I think in the long run it's still it's still they're still too new to know what effect they're going to have on the investigative process. DC, we've only had cameras for 1.5 to 2 years, and we were one of the first to have it. So I think we still have to see what the long-term effect of investigating shootings are. I think it's you get body cameras, but you have to move past that and not have cities or counties stop at body cameras. DC went through what other cities are going through right now. We went through it about 20 years ago. In the late 90s, DC led the country in fatal uses of force. It led the country in officer discharges of weapons. And we brought in the Department of Justice. We went through a period of oversight for about 5 or 6 years. And out of that, we had much stricter standards for who we hire. We have some of the most laborious and long training of any police department in the country. And we have an independent body unrelated to police to investigate complaints, and an independent prosecutorial arm looking at uses of force. So we went through some of those other actions that are essential about 20 years ago. So I'd say demand body cameras because they can provide some clarity and transparency. But when a city rolls them out, make sure they roll it out with a policy that it lets a city release that footage to the public, doesn't hide it until the end of the process, and demand some of the basics of any good police department, which is who do you recruit? Do you recruit locally? How do you train officers? And what accountability do you have in place for independent reviews of uses of force?
All right, then. I'm out of time for that. I certainly appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you so very much.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh, my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no.
That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.